No, it was the single questions. Yeah, it is. I'm working over at Nessel.
But then in the fall,
In that, like, that's so funny. Why are all these yellow? No, mine are too. I had to go back until
I ruined that.
We're recording this. That's it, right? Okay. That's what I thought. What? Okay. Are we live streaming actively right now?
I was like, nice to meet you. Did you see me just get
Okay. Okay. Right. Analyst. I love your shoes, by the way.
Thank you. I love them too. I've started doing shoes. They're really great. The color ones are always
Rick will run into someone's like Well, we don't know. He could be like that.
Right, we will be starting shortly. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. We have a lot of folks joining us that are going to be on this side of the room. Not all of them typical people who are at our press conferences. For your awareness and spelling, we will have State Representative Angela Whitwer, Whitwer, which I'm sure is not one you needed me to help you with. Kalamazoo County Prosecuting Attorney Jeffrey Getting, Getting, and Branch County Prosecuting Attorney Zachary Stempian, Stempien. We are asking folks to keep questions to today's topic of the announcement out of respect for the many partners we have joining us here. Please do raise your hands. I'll be up here at the front of the room. I can see you. I will call on you. When I do so, even though I know darn well you're Ben Solis with Gongwer, please do preface your question with your name and affiliate organization for the benefit of the recipients of those questions. We will have a press release coming out pretty reasonably quickly at the conclusion of this event. I do not have hard copies this morning on your exit, but the digital will go out fairly quickly when we get out of here. We will see you all in just a couple more minutes. Thank you.
All right. Are we good to get going? Okay. Is this on? Do we know?
Not lighting up.
Always a technical issue. Do you want to take a look at this, Denny? Yeah. All right. Oops. There you go. All right. Justice waits for no one except for this microphone. Okay.
He went to sleep.
All right.
Probably doesn't want to sleep also.
Quiet. The microphone's. All right. Okay. Now we're good? All right. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for everyone who's in attendance today. Let me introduce everyone here. With me are Chief of our Criminal Justice Bureau, Danielle Hageman Clark, Chief of our Criminal Investigations Division, Aubrey Sargent, First Assistant Attorney General, Danielle Rousseau-Bennett, and AAG Caitlin Kirby. We also have our Supervisory Special Agent, Bridget Frost. And with us today also is Branch County Prosecutor, Zachary Stempian, Kalamazoo County Prosecutor and President of the Prosecuting Attorneys Association, Jeff Getting, and Special Assistant AG, Aaron House, who works with the SACI initiative, the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative in Kalamazoo County. And in addition, we're very pleased today to be joined by House Appropriations Chairwoman, State Representative Angela Whitwer. So I'm thrilled today to announce our new partnership in Michigan law enforcement that really has the potential to change the landscape of cold case sexual assault fugitive apprehensions throughout the state of Michigan. The Michigan Department of Attorney General has partnered with local county prosecutors and the U.S. Marshal Service to launch Operation Survivor Justice. Born out of the work of our SACI units, the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative tirelessly cracks cold case sexual assaults by testing previously unsubmitted sexual assault evidence kits. And this is the brainchild of Deputy U.S. Marshal in the Western District of Michigan and Special Assistant AG Aaron House, again, with the Kalamazoo County SACI unit. So while working to locate a suspect in a cold case sexual assault matter who had fled the state, Special AAG House began working with a Deputy U.S. Marshal in order to track him down. And what blossomed from that conversation was a keen understanding of how the U.S. Marshals could help us pursue justice for hundreds of Michigan sexual assault victims. Now, Operation Survivor Justice is a partnership between my office, the Michigan Department of Attorney General, the U.S. Marshal Service, and elected county prosecutors throughout the state to locate, apprehend, and return to Michigan offenders with outstanding sexual assault charges to stand trial and face accountability and justice at long last. Already, our department has worked with local prosecutors and the Marshal Service to extradite defendants back to Michigan and into a courtroom from the states of California, Florida, and also from Mexico. The Marshals are able to leverage their vast intelligence apparatus and their prolific national presence in order to track down and take into custody criminal defendants wherever they run or hide. But these efforts do come at a cost to transport the defendants sometimes all the way across the country. And the Marshals are able to bring back these wanted fugitives via specialized flights of convicted and suspected criminals from anywhere in the continental U.S. At a cost to cover the specific logistical cost for delivering each of the defendants back which represents a significant discount from the private party extradition specialists that we otherwise would have to rely upon. Now, the operations to bring back the defendants I mentioned earlier have been possible with funding from my office's budget into the SAKI program, which receives $1.4 million annually in funding from previous legislative session budgets. But today forward, these operations will be possible with dedicated Operation Survivor Justice appropriations by the legislature signed into law just this past summer. And to that end, that's why today we're joined by one of the legislative leaders who made all this possible, and in their latest budget and signed into law a $1 million appropriation to my department specifically for funding these national sex assault fugitive apprehensions and extraditions. And we're incredibly grateful for this funding to pursue this first in the nation partnership, which is truly a potential game changer in our ability to bring these defendants to justice and endeavor towards healing and closure for many of the victims that this program will certainly impact. To our legislative leaders in the House and Senate who championed our cause towards Operation Survivor Justice, I'd really like to say thank you, not just on my behalf, but from the prosecutors who will finally get to pursue accountability in their communities, from the victims who may have sometimes just given up hope, hearing that their attacker fled the state, and from any future would-be victims of these sexual predators that are on the run and free out in public across state lines. This funding, this program, we believe, will make a significant difference. It will touch the lives of victims and those who hopefully never will become one, because we're able to take this decisive strike with our new partners in this effort to secure justice for as many sexual assault survivors as possible. So, as I mentioned, first in the nation partnership, now well funded, ready to hit the ground running. Operation Survivor Justice is only operational in Michigan, but we are hoping to set an example that will lead across the nation, and that the Marshal Service one day can expand their activities with agreements in other states from coast to coast. This is also today a request from all our county prosecuting attorneys to work with us on this important project. This partnership really depends on county prosecutors identifying cases involving fugitive defendants, and we know that there are eligible cases and warrants out in every single community. Eligible cases for Operation Survivor Justice, fugitive apprehension, and extradition include over 800 defendants, all of them who are out on cash bail. We have a list of all eligible types of cases, and we're eager to discuss pursuing them with the county prosecutors. These are the factors that would be required. Previously charged cases, we're not seeking new warrants to pursue. These are people who have already been charged. Defendants must be charged with what we would call contact sexual assault crimes, so a penetration or a touching, including a criminal sexual conduct first, second, third, or fourth degree, while also including charged cases of accosting a minor for immoral purposes. These should be cases that are prosecution ready, so either with prosecutors who would like to handle the case or who are willing to hand off or partner with the Department of Attorney General and the many specially trained prosecutors that we have here. We also would like to have cases where witnesses and victims can be located and are cooperative, even though in some cases it has been many years since the crime will have occurred. Now, as with all the efforts in my office, this is a trauma-informed, victim-centered approach, and so the desire of the victim to re-engage in this process remains our biggest priority. And again, we appreciate just how short-staffed many prosecutors' offices are right now, but the goal is to get fugitive sexual assault defendants back to Michigan to face prosecution. We're not looking to take over any local jurisdiction or influence the prosecutorial authority or discretion of our county prosecutors. Partnership on Operation Survivor Justice does not require local prosecutors to hand off their cases to our prosecutors. And it doesn't require them to partner with our office really on any facet of the case. They're welcome to negotiate directly with the U.S. Marshal Service under Operation Survivor Justice to locate, to apprehend, and to extradite their eligible offenders. So with that, I'm going to pass this along. I don't have the run show here. So who's next? Is it you, Angela? All right. Angela Whitworth.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here today, and thank you, Attorney General, for your leadership on this very important appropriation and start of a program. I'm Angela Whitwer, and I'm the Appropriations Chair for the House of Representatives, and I'm the State Representative for Eaton County. As House Budget Chair the past 2 years, I've been tasked with helping to improve public safety and the well-being of all 10 million Michiganders. One of the recent public safety initiatives that I'm most proud of is partnering with our Attorney General to bolster Operation Survivor Justice with direct support from our state budget. I couldn't have asked for better budget partners that helped get this done, including our Governor, Governor Whitmer, Chair Sarah Anthony, Representative Felicia Brayback, Senator John Cherry, and of course, our Attorney General, Dana Nessel. I'd also like to share my appreciation of our law enforcement community, including our state's county prosecutors, of which I work very closely with mine, Prosecutor Doug Lloyd. Operation Survivor Justice is a relatively small line item, important investment that will increase accountability for perpetrators of sexual assault here in Michigan. Lack of resources should never be the reason we do not seek justice for victims of heinous crimes. Yet the unfortunate reality is extraditing defendants back to Michigan can be a costly endeavor that many local prosecuting attorneys' offices simply do not have the resources for. That's why we decided to help remove these barriers by increasing financial support from the state so survivors of sexual assault can begin to heal when perpetrators are finally brought to justice. I'm told there are more than 1,600 open warrants for sexual assault related offenses in Michigan, including child sexually abusive activity and sex offender registry violations. In Eaton County alone, we have 5 cases on the list dating back to January of 2021. Quite frankly, we can't just let these offenses go unprosecuted. And although the main reason we're investing in Operation Survivor Justice is to increase public safety and help survivors, I wouldn't be an appropriator if I didn't mention the financial sense that this makes. By partnering with the federal department like the U.S. Marshals through Operation Survivor Justice, the state of Michigan actually saves money rather than hiring a private company to have these individuals extradited. It's also much safer to leave the task to the highly trained law enforcement personnel. So with that, I once again want to thank you all for being here and showing your interest in this important issue. And I hope this is just the beginning that we can continue to build Operation Survivor Justice into the important law enforcement tool for the survivors deserve. Thank you again for having me today.
Good morning. Thank you for everybody for being here. I'm Zach Stempian. I'm the Branch County Prosecuting Attorney. And I think the 2 previous statements and comments really hit on a lot of the important points for the Branch County Prosecutor's Office. When it comes down to it, Operation Survivor Justice has put my office into a position that we've been able to prosecute numerous cases that we otherwise would not have been able to do so. And when we talk about resources and the ability to find individuals that are fugitives at justice, or at large, it's a real thing, and it's a significant thing for an office such as mine. So when we look at line items and budgets and the amount of money that we have to do these investigations, Branch County, my budget for extradition for the year is $500. I would not be able to extradite somebody from Indiana for $500 anymore through a private company. So we've had 3 cases now that are kind of in the purview of Operation Survivor Justice, 2 of which are in the court system being prosecuted currently by Ms. Kirby. And those 2 individuals were individuals that were located at length from Branch County. One was in Mexico, one was in Florida. And when we look at the cost of that to be borne by the Prosecuting Attorney's Office of Branch County, that would have been significant and something that frankly would have been very difficult for us to be able to handle. Now, before we even get to the point of extradition is the task of locating these individuals. And prior to Operation Survivor Justice beginning, we had a part-time investigator trying to find open warrants for us across the country. And when you have a part-time investigator calling from a local county prosecutor's office to the FBI or the U.S. Marshals or these federal agencies, you do not get a lot of response oftentimes because they're busy, they're doing other things. So the ability to be able to partner directly with the U.S. Marshals opened a door that was significant for us. And once we started partnering with the U.S. Marshals, we were able to locate people very quickly in other countries and faraway states and be able to bring them back. And I will tell you, I'll never forget the feeling when I was sitting on the bus going down to Florida for a family trip, and I get a text message from the U.S. Marshal saying, we have this defendant. He's in custody, and they're getting ready to get him on the airplane back to the state of Michigan. Now, we talked about the victims and the victims losing hope on these cases, and that is true. When you have a warrant that's been out there for 5 or 6 years, victims start to think, my perpetrator is never going to be caught. You know, this case is never going to go anywhere. And my office has tried to maintain some contact with those victims throughout the time, but our updates were never very positive. It's, well, we're looking for them, but we have not had much success. So when we're finally able to tell them, we found them, we're bringing them back, our victims they're very excited about it, and they're very relieved that they're finally going to get the opportunity at justice. And I think at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's not about the Branch County Prosecutor's Office getting a conviction or the Attorney General getting a conviction. It's about the state of Michigan getting a conviction and making sure that people who are perpetrators are held accountable. So with Operation Survivor Justice, we've been able to do that. So thank you everybody for being here. I appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Jeff Getting. I'm the Kalamazoo County Prosecuting Attorney, and I currently have the privilege and honor of being the president of the Prosecuting Attorneys Association for the state of Michigan. I want to start off today by the thought that came to my mind when I was contacted by the Attorney General's office and asked to speak here about Operation Survivor Justice. And I want to say it in a way that I think everybody understands. When someone is evading prosecution, moves to another state, does things to minimize their contact with law enforcement in order to keep from being arrested, they're often able to avoid the long arm of the law. But it is totally different when the long arm of the law comes looking for you. And that's what Operation Survivor Justice is about. It's about the long arm of the law, law enforcement, state officials, federal officials, working together with the resources that are necessary in order to be able to accomplish that task, bringing people to justice. I want to make sure that I thank all of the partners that have been involved in this. Attorney General Dana Nessel, the Michigan Legislature, the Governor's Office, and the United States Marshal's Office. Without each of those partners, this does not happen. And what was a good idea, brought forth by a single instance, a single case arising out of Kalamazoo County, and a conversation that happened between two professionals, it blossomed into something that is real, that is going to help victims, going to help survivors across the state of Michigan. Numbers, over 1,600 fugitives from justice right now, over 800 cases that have been identified by the U.S. Marshal Service for their help and assistance. Those are real cases. Those are real people who have been victims of horrific crimes, who now do have a greater hope, a hope for justice, and a knowledge that there will be accountability and consequence for those persons that hurt them. There's nothing that we do as prosecutors that's more important than what we do on behalf of our victims. And when we are able to bring together the resources that are necessary that will make it better for those victims, we have an obligation to do that. And the people that are here in this room recognize that and took the steps necessary in order to make it happen. I can't speak more highly of the people that were involved in this. It was really something that was born of good intentions and blossomed into something that will help victims, survivors across the state. And you see that in what's happening already in Branch County with my colleague, Prosecutor Stempian. You know, being able to recognize that oftentimes we locally don't have the resources that we should have, but that if we get out of the way, if we set our egos to the side, we can get the help that we need in order to be able to better prosecute cases, in order to be able to accomplish things like an arrest in Florida or Mexico that we wouldn't otherwise see happening, takes true leadership. And I want to thank Prosecutor Stempian for the way he has led Branch County in bringing justice for victims in that community. The last thing I think I want to say is that this is kind of adjacent to what's been happening in the state of Michigan over the last several years with the Sexual Assault Kit Initiative that was born out of Wayne County and Prosecuting Attorney Kim Worthy's discovery of thousands of untested rape kits. One of the most important lessons that I think has come out of that is that when prosecutors have resources that are necessary in order to better prosecute these cases, we see results. We have seen case after case after case in Kalamazoo County, case after case after case in counties across the state of Michigan, where people who otherwise would not have been held accountable for their actions have. Where serial rapists who otherwise would not have been identified have been identified, have been brought to justice, have been sent to prison for their actions. And recognizing that those resources, when they are available to the Office of the Attorney General, when they are available to local prosecutors' offices, can be put to use in a way that does bring justice on behalf of survivors, I think is maybe the most important lesson of all from that project. In Operation Survivor Justice is a great example of how that lesson is being applied today. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Attorney General Dana Nessel, and she will answer any questions that you might have. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks, Jeff. Greatly appreciate it.
With the, I guess, funds that are currently allotted, how long do you guys anticipate this operation will run?
Until the money's all gone, right?
Yeah, so
I
we're
mean,
hopeful to be able to wrap it up in 3 years. Yeah. And we'll probably be asking for money again next year.
just be forewarned.
Yeah.
Anna Nichols, Michigan Advance. I was wondering why the particular focus on sexual violence and on there, is it because reporting time of these crimes is so delayed that the perpetrators have time to leave the city?
Well, I mean, we had to start somewhere, right? There are a lot of defendants that capious or fail to appear for their cases. We're prioritizing sexual assaults again in this department, and we've done that time and time again because we understand really, the nature of sexual assault crimes, how they impact victims, how they impact society. We talk about the cost of extraditing defendants back to Michigan to be held accountable. But I think one of the things people don't recognize is the cost to an individual who has been victimized for this particular type of crime. And, when you look at it really from a purely financial perspective, right? The cost to society overall in terms of that individual's ability to recuperate mentally, sometimes physically, from an event like this. And I mean, there's been so many studies that have been done and really show how difficult it is for a person to move on in their life, whether that's with education or professionally or, their need for mental health treatment, all of these things. But, it becomes so much worse when their perpetrator is known and yet has fled. And again, it's just so hard for these people to move on and to get any kind of closure at all. And so, we're prioritizing these types of offenses. And the other thing I'll say is this is not the case with every sex offender, but I will say it is true with many, is that for those who go without accountability, they are often likely to have more victims. And, so we are doing everything that we can to prioritize sexual assault cases. It's not to say that we don't care about other kinds of cases. Of course we do. But, these cases in particular we decided to focus on. And partially, of course, we've had such great success with the SACI units that are dispersed amongst the state. And, of course, AAG House is a fantastic example, somebody who's had amazing success out with Prosecutor Getting Out in Kalamazoo. But, it's our recognition that we can successfully prosecute cold case sexual assault, cases, but we just need the defendant to be in the courtroom to do it. And that is going to help us to get that accomplished and to let sexual assault survivors out there know that, there is a potential end date to these cases, and that we're going to do everything we possibly can on their behalf to secure justice for them.
Yeah, Ben?
You mentioned that today was also a call for county prosecutors to join and engage this program. It appears that there's language baked in there that lets prosecutors partner directly with the Marshal Service if they're wary of partnering with your office. And you also were quick to mention that this doesn't necessarily mean that the AG will take over these cases. Is that a major challenge for your office in this realm of trying to get buy-in from prosecutors and being kind of wary to partner with you? And how does directly working with the Marshal Service kind of sweeten the pot for these prosecutors?
Yeah, well, personally, I think that generally speaking, we have great relationships with most or all of the county prosecutors. I will note that I think we've had more turnover in county prosecutors as of late for multiple reasons than I've seen, I think, ever in my career. But it's really just sort of a message to say, listen, you have your own prosecutorial discretion and you get to make the charging decisions and you obviously decide whether or not you personally want to keep this case. And again, it doesn't even involve partnering with our department, but we have that available to you. We have that option available in the event that, like many county prosecutors across the state, they are short-staffed. And so, it's very difficult, I think, for a lot of these offices even to handle the current cases they have ongoing, let alone to comb through their old capias files, to pull them out, and to now, on top of all the other things they're dealing with, have to pursue those cases. So this way, we're just offering, multiple opportunities in multiple different ways to make sure that we're all achieving the same goal, which is, of course, justice for sexual assault survivors who've been waiting for it for a very long time.
What is the cost difference? So, like, instead of, in a normal situation, prosecutor's office would employ what?
Yeah, do you guys want to speak to what your normal process is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So once we find somebody and we locate somebody in a different area, our options are a couple. So one option is if Michigan State Police is willing to send their fugitive team to go get the individual, then they will. Now, oftentimes, they like to restrict that to their warrants and their cases for obvious reasons. If they do that, it is fairly inexpensive. Oftentimes, my office will pay for their mileage and hotel and food and stuff, and then they'll come back, but MSP will cover their wages and things. But if not, if we're not able to have that success, then we have to hire a private company to do the transport. And those quotes can go anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 to $15,000, depending on where they're located at, the seriousness of the charges, and any other risk factors that they include in there. So a while back, we extradited somebody from South Carolina, and it was $9,000 to bring them back. So it is fairly significant. The U.S. Marshals, from what I understand, they will do some extraditions for us at a flat fee, which is significantly less than that. But they have so many cases across the country, it's difficult sometimes to get in that line to be able to accomplish that. But yeah, there's 2 or 3 different companies that will do that will quote us for the individual transports.
Why is Marshall the one?
That's part of their core mission, is to be able to do that. And I think working with agent or Special Prosecutor House there, and I think they jumped on board and were willing to provide assistance in that matter. And they've always been willing to bring people back for us. It's just going through the system and trying to figure out the right cases for them to be involved with. I mean, if I called them on a misdemeanor warrant, asking them to bring back from Mexico, they would say no, because that wouldn't make much sense. So it's the seriousness of the cases.
Danny?
Danny Valley of Flash 47 News. Do you know how far of these hundreds of cases that you guys are investigating, how old is the oldest cold case that you guys are looking at?
I think we've got one as far back as 1984.
Aaron?
I know we've got the prosecutors here with us today, but are there any others that have already joined on, specifically here in the Michigan area, so Ingham, and Clinton, that sort of thing?
Yeah, do you guys have permission on that? Do you wanna-
So we currently have a defendant who's being extradited back from Guam. That is a Wayne County case. We have been hesitant to really launch this project publicly without having the governor sign the budget. And so now that we have the money in hand in October, it is a big push now to reach out to those local prosecutors to get on board.
So just these 2 for now?
Yes. Well, we also have one in Dickinson County in the UP, and so we've tried to kind of limit because we just didn't know if we'd have the resources.
I believe someone, I forget who it was talking about the 1,600 cases, right? They had mentioned some of those are sensitive child materials. Does that qualify under this?
I'm sorry, that it was, say that last part again?
I believe it was child sexual material. Does that qualify?
No, we're looking primarily at cases that involve asexual touching or penetration. So those are the cases that we're focusing on, CSC 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be the vast majority of the cases.
And the goal of the program is to get through all of those hopefully in 3 years?
Yes.
Attorney General, when do you expect your office will have this report out on the current Washington prosecution?
Our goal is by the end of the year.
After the election?
I mean, I'm not up for election, so, I mean, yes, technically, I guess, by the end of this calendar year. And one of the things that we're working on, and I should tell you, we're trying to do the same thing with the MSU documents, is to have those documents available so that you don't have to FOIA them, you don't have to pay whatever, significant cost might normally be associated with. And we're trying to fashion it so that there's a way that we can put it online so that literally anybody can look at any of them. So really that's our goal. It's just very time consuming to do that. But that is what we're trying to do.
Aaron?
For this, bringing it back to the topic of today, about how much funding was allotted for this program?
This is a $1 million appropriation for Operation Survivor Justice.
Anna?
I'm wondering for the Branch County prosecutor, if border counties or even counties that have more migrant populations, if extradition is a particular issue and if this funding, we kind of touched on it, especially when something for maybe your partner counties like Cass County.
Absolutely. I think we certainly have more individuals that flee to the state of Indiana or Ohio. I mean, Branch County is right on the border. So you go 15 miles south and you're in Indiana, we have to go through the extradition process. If somebody's located just south of the border, just in Indiana, oftentimes our local police departments will go pick up those individuals if it's within an hour or 2. But I do know, speaking with other prosecutors on the southern border of Michigan, you often do have individuals that will flee further. And then in Branch County specifically, we have a high population of migrant workers who come in for a pork processing plant as well as a greenhouse plant. So we do end up with a lot of open warrants of individuals that go back to Texas, that go back to Mexico, California, Florida, and those are kind of our main 3 states where individuals end up fleeing to. And again, it's a large cost of prosecution to be able to bring those individuals back, especially with the $500 budget that I'm allotted each year to be able to do it. So I know previous administrations prior to me had made decisions not to extradite individuals back, even on fairly serious cases. My philosophy has always been to extradite individuals back. And when I read the statutes, once I present it to the board, I have had good luck with them approving those things. But it is a delicate dance for local prosecutors to have to figure out when you have a very small budget to be able to do that.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Folks?